Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's go straight into this one now. Sporturf has been involved in the construction of pitches in some of the country's major stadia with over 30 years experience. They have approval from international sporting bodies, including football body FIFA, athletics body the IAAF, and the International Tennis Federation. Now, having been responsible for various FIFA-certified football turf facilities across Southern Africa and the Middle East, Operations Director Craig Corbett joins us in studio now to share a bit more insights on the process and some of the considerations in maintaining a football pitch in South Africa, as the state of the country's football pitches has returned to focus in recent weeks. So, Craig, thank you so much for making time for us here on the AM Report. And I suppose a good place to start for those that are not that familiar with the sporting world is, what is a pitch or a turf? Of course, we look at the facility in its entirety being a stadium, but you only focus on the ground and the surface where the game is actually being played.
That's correct. Hi, Andy. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here today. There are numerous surfaces that can be used. There's fully artificial, there's a hybrid system which is partial, and then there's the fully natural pitch. So you've got options. Generally speaking, the main stadias are all going to the hybrid system at this point. The hybrid systems are generally speaking far more robust and can handle a lot more traffic, concert events, etc. And generally come out of heavy use periods far better than a standard natural pitch would.
Yeah, and I want to perhaps zone in on football for the purposes of this discussion, if you'll allow me, and look at what you're mentioning in terms of a hybrid pitch, right? Because we have clubs that don't own their own stadiums, and we have events, that happen in these venues. Why is this then the most suitable to be using in our context in South Africa?
So, just to give you a bit of context, a hybrid pitch actually only consists between 3 to 5% of hybrid, of a yarn. Which covers the surface. The rest of it's all natural. And so essentially the guys are playing on a fully natural pitch, and so the look and the feel is natural. The players prefer to a fully artificial pitch. However, the grass is protected by the hybrid stitching. And so it can take a lot more wear and tear. And if there is a grass reduction on the pitch, generally speaking, the pitch actually presents quite well and still plays quite well with the synthetic yarn that's on the pitch.
So if we're seeing a pitch perhaps disintegrating, what would then ordinarily cause that? Is it down to weather? Is it down to the conditions that we have in the country? Or is it a maintenance issue that would lead to that?
There could obviously be many issues. There's weather conditions that could lead to it, types of grass, and also whether the pitch has been stabilized with the hybrid or not. Generally speaking, if you see pitches ripping up, they are not a hybrid pitch, or the hybrid pitch has failed in some way. On natural turf, for example, we have kikuyu grass in South Africa. Yeah. Kikuyu grass goes dormant in winter, leading to pitches not playing very well and also not holding together very well. That's why you will see on some of the pitches that we've got when guys are playing rugby, they rip up quite badly. And it's hence this problem that we have now gone across to hybrid. One more thing on the hybrid fields is that we generally use a winter grass or a cool season turf. And the cool season turf, although it is green year-round and aesthetically really pleasing, it is not very hardy. And so if you're having events or a lot of soccer on it, the grass does tend to take quite a big knock. Now, having said that, it comes back really quickly and you can seed it, and the regermination of that seed is really quick too.
And you mentioned that it's very quick, but unfortunately, that's not what we've seen in practice in terms of, maintenance and getting it back into tip-top shape. In instances like that, what then does it take to restore a pitch to the condition that it's supposed to be, that is suitable for playing? Because people go to stadiums to watch a good game, but unfortunately, if the pitch is not playing along, that's not what you're going to get.
Sure. Look, again, I think it's got a lot of there are a lot of contributing factors here. We've got stadiums that are hosting events besides soccer or rugby, and it depends on the timeline and how long the pitch is covered with a product called pitch cover or Terraplast. Generally speaking, you need to have about 3 to 4 weeks after a large event like that has happened. However, we're quite proud of what we're able to produce in the managing of these events and concerts, and having a reasonably good pitch playable very quickly. It is a science. It's come down to numbers and figures and tracking. And then also a little bit of touch and feel, the green finger.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And because we're dealing with nature, you can only chase nature along so fast.
And I'm sure you might have heard in the intro that I was saying, well, this conversation is back in focus now in terms of South African football and the maintenance of pitches. If we're now looking at the scenario that I've painted where there's a number of events taking place, in fact, a number of sporting events, and you don't have that 4-week time that you've mentioned where there's nothing being played on the surface, what is the alternative? Could it be to switch to artificial surface, or what options are there to make sure that there isn't a constant disturbance when you don't have time where it's not being used?
So currently the hybrid stitching method is actually the state of the art. It's what they're using in Europe. It's what they use for all of the international soccer games. It's what they use in all of the stadias, and this is cutting edge technology. The use of the pitch needs to be managed well. And it's not always easy to be able to have times and places for certain things, because a lot of stuff pops up and we have to deal with it. And as a turf maintenance company, our goal is always to have the pitch in playable condition. Pitch maintenance, pitch preparation is always key. And sometimes you're not able to have the pitch in the best possible conditions, but I think generally speaking, the major stadias that have got the hybrid stitching are quite a lot further along than what they used to be. I think if you go back and have a look at the Rugby World Cup that was hosted in South Africa all those years back when we originally won the World Cup, those fields were ripping apart quite badly. We've come a long way, and there's still a lot of progress to be made.
And what are some of those stadia that you're referring to, the major stadia that are now using this cutting-edge technology?
The vast majority of the major stadias in South Africa do actually have the hybrid stitching. Some of it is slightly older technology that has gone back sort of to the 2010 World Cup. And quite a few of the stadia in South Africa now have actually gone across to the new technology. It's the same, but there's better technology being put in place. Generally speaking, the hybrid technology lasts between 10 and 15 years. So the original stadia that were built for the soccer World Cup are coming to the end of their life, and are going to need to get redone quite urgently. But generally speaking, most of your major stadias in South Africa are moving to are hybrid already or stabilized in some way. And the vast majority of the pitches that we're busy working on up in Africa are all going to hybrid because of the technology and the usability.
So that would include, you know, F&B Stadium, your Loftus, Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, and the likes that were used during the FIFA World Cup, correct?
Correct. Some of those have been redone since, and some need to get redone still.
So why is it then, Craig, that we are observing what we are in South Africa if this is something that is used across the board, and we're not seeing the same thing when you're watching football games, you know, abroad in Europe in terms of disintegration?
You actually do. Sometimes some of the pitches in Europe do disintegrate quite badly, and they've got massive teams that will redo them quite quickly. In South Africa, we've got events that are hosted on the pitches, sometimes unfortunately a little closer than what they should be to the games. But no, I think we're all in the same boat, and pitch maintenance is a very large part of it, but it's not all of it. Planning is also a very large part of this.
Well, I know it's not necessarily your place to be the voice of reason here, but if you're giving a word to those who have been watching football across the country now and going, well, is this a unique problem to South Africa, which you've clarified it's not, and you're asking them to hang in there, does it look like the tide is going to turn, and there's work that's being put in then to make sure that this does not become a continuing trend for the rest of the season?
Sure. I think that the December, if most people remember, was exceptionally wet and overcast, and it was quite tough. We had very few days of sun. Grass needs sun to photosynthesize and make energy for itself. And then on top of it, we came out of that and went into a pretty hot spell, and a huge amount of soccer being played currently, as you've seen with the Derby recently. And again, this is one of those things that us as sports turf managers need to manage and learn from all the time. And the management of the stadias around South Africa also take into consideration the weather conditions and the factors involved. So I think we're over it. I think that we're going into a great time of the year. This time of the year is always good for grass because with the weather conditions and a bit of rain. But yes, I think we passed it, and I feel very strongly that moving forward, you're going to start seeing the pitches we expect in South Africa.